Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm so happy to have you. So my previous subscribers, welcome back to the channel. So for today's video in particular, we're going to be talking about and discussing my election night revisitation of my election dream, which apparently, according to the title, I did not even type that out correctly. By the way, that's something that's going to be fixed later on. Hopefully everybody realizes what today's video is going to be all about. But this was actually a suggested video by Desmond. She really wanted to know about Pete Buttigieg, Gavin Newsom, and the likes of those to see if they will be the presidential frontrunner in 2028. Now, I do have a dream and a vision that I had years ago. This was a vision that took place back in 2018. But before we do get to that video, do get to that vision, let's talk about and just let's just go through some quick disclaimers, get it out of the way so we can just focus on today's video. This video is being recorded on Monday, July 21st at 3:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as and when I'm doing this specific video. If you want to help out the channel grow, you can do so by liking, commenting, subscribing, hitting the bell icon, engaging with the video content. Watching this video longer than normal really help boost the algorithm here on YouTube. If you want to help out and you want to donate to the channel, you can absolutely do so. You can do so by following and going to the description or in the comment section below and donating the donation link. That is up to you guys. Again, my recommendation is don't donate. Just engage with the content. It really helps the channel overall, and that's the best thing you can do for this channel. Anyway, if you want to be notified when I do post and upload because YouTube does not notify you, go to the description or the comment section below. Follow my Blue Sky account and my Facebook group if you want to be notified and stay in the loop when I'm live, when I'm recording and stuff like that, when new videos are out, and etc. etc. You can go do that in the description below. All right, so this video is just for entertainment purposes only and for educational purposes only as well. And let's just get on. Let's get on with it. Let's just see what's happening. Hello, Tracy. Hello, Brenda. Hello, Robin. So let's go on with this. This is the election night video that I received back in 2018. In 2018, I had a vision right after a very long day of work. I sat down and I started showing election night. Now, the thing is, this took place prior to the 2020 election. And so there was a vision. I didn't really know what election it was referring to, but it seemed like it was going to be, whether it was going to be 2020, was not very much in line with 2020, but it was going to be more in line with like that of 2024 or 2028, or even a little bit later than that. But obviously, it's very clear and that it was not 2024 because of some of the energy, some of the things you spoke about did not come to fruition during this time. But now that remember, I talked about how Uranus entering Saturn. Hello, Desmond. Uranus entering Saturn. Uranus entering, well, it also enters Saturn, but Uranus entering Gemini on July 7, 2025 of this year will set the stage for what's to come. So, as you all may have remembered, we talked about Jeffrey Epstein taking place right after Uranus entering Gemini, right? And those are going to be the themes. So the themes of July and August are going to be the next themes that we're going to see over the next couple years up until 2033 when we start to really see the full effects of it. And it's very clearly evident based on my vision that it takes place during that time frame. It takes place between 2025 all the way to 2033, which now we have a clear end where the vision takes place. It says here, election night, quote, here we go again with the tired emoji, which tells me there is a repetitive pattern here. The repetitive pattern energy is indicating to us that we have the same old type of Democrat versus the same old type of Republican, which is the Trump version of Republican, which kind of said the quote, here we go again. That is the whole story. That is the whole energy. This is the aura around this election. Now, we don't know if it's going to take place in 2028, 2032, 2036. We don't really know. But more likely than that, it's probably going to take place during the 2028 election or 2032 election. We do have here the first thing I saw was Florida become very competitive. Trump expected to win by 4%. Now, this does not mean that Trump is the nominee. It could be his son, Trump. It could be a Trump-like candidate. I did say specifically Donald John Trump, the president of the United States, is not going to be in this election. Specifically, the energy just wasn't there for him anymore. It means that somebody else takes over for his ideology. It's the Trumpism is an ideology at this point. Whether Trump is around or not is not yet to be something that is a thing, but it feels like more than anything, if Trumpism, based on historical perspective here, like you ever know like a Joseph Stalin, how they have Stalinism and stuff like that, or Hitler, those things, the energy is the most potent right after a candidate or a position or a candidate either retires or dies. that is when the energy or the idea is still there. The concept is still very much alive and very strong and very potent. Which means that just say Donald Trump were to die sometime around the 2020 election, then this will be indicating the 2028. If Donald Trump somehow manages to live and lived out until the second presidential election, which will take place around 2032, then Trumpism will be the most potent there. But we'll wait and see when he decides to pass away. However, going back into the vision, we have here Florida becomes very competitive, but it goes to the Republican or Trump-like candidate by more than 4%, or at least at 4%. North Carolina by 5%, right? Bigger margin than what Trump won in the past. We have here Ohio more than 2016. So Ohio, I believe if I'm correct, was won by 9.4%. And then we have here, I talked about the Democratic candidate. Specifically, I didn't see much about the Republican, but it kind of felt like very much like a Trump-like Republican candidate for the Republican side. But for the Democrat, it was going to be a front runner, which is going to be a presidential nominee for the Democrat. It could be roughly around the age of 35 years old, could be around 37 max, maybe 38. We're pushing it here, but around that time. And in the VP pick, it's going to be a woman. We're 100% definite it's going to be a woman. And this woman is going to be more closely aligned with Hillary's energy. She might appear herself and walking the same type of style, clothing style, fashion statement, maybe hair, maybe pearl necklace, something along those lines. It's going to be somebody who's already in the system, somebody who may have prior vice presidential experience. It might be somebody who was in some capacity in relation to a president in the past. So it could be many different ways, but it's going to be a woman. It's going to be a vice presidential woman pick for the Democratic Party, and it could be somebody who gives off the energy of Hillary. Now, when I say the energy of Hillary, this could be the Republican attacking this specific female, targeting them very early on to try to diminish their public status or public persona, so that when they do decide to run for president, they cannot become president. The public remember so much of the propaganda that's been spilled on them that it almost makes it impossible for them to win. Think of Hillary in 2016. So that is what this is indicating. The next thing is the national polling in the summer. So the national polling, so whether it's the summer of 2028 or the summer of 2032, the national polling of the summer, whatever party wins, so this represents both the Democrats and the Republican Party. Whoever wins by 10% or more, whoever's leading the poll by 10% or more, will be the party that loses the White House in the fall of that year. The reason for this is, whenever I set the keynote here, and this is the key thing that I completely forgot until I rewatched that video in the time that I have between the Robin Hood video and this video. Apparently, I talked about in this video, and I put the link to this vision. I have two vision videos. I have the original one, and I have the one where I revisit it and do tarot card update. This is the second revisitation of that video. But in that video, I talked about how during the party, whatever party leads, both the Democrats or the Republicans, can lead by 10% or more in the summer of that presidential election. But will take the biggest hit with the October surprise. For the party in the lead, what's known as, quote, the baby scandal. So if you guys don't know what the baby scandal is, it's known as the biggest scandal of all time. Think of Jeffrey Epstein, but 100 times worse. It's going to be a situation where a politician or many politicians are actually engaged in behavior with sexual activities, which basically newborns. If that's the best point, that's the best way that I'm going to describe it. I'm not going to go too much into detail. But we kind of get the theme here, right? It makes a lot of sense now because I talked about back then in 2020 when I uploaded a video, when I had the vision back in 2018, that there was going to be some sort of scandal revolving around molestation of children, specifically babies. And now that we just entered into Uranus entering Gemini in just the month of July, now that's going to be the theme, the overall theme of every summer going into 2033. Which means that this makes a lot of sense. And now we have a time frame. This election, this vision is going to take place within the 2028 election or 2032 election, which is why we're talking about it. The baby scandal. The next one is young candidate doesn't take the hit. So the young Democrat does not take the hit, which is the Democrats here. But the vice presidential candidate does because she emits Hillary-like energy. Possibly because she's been framed, maybe because she's targeted, maybe she has propaganda, maybe because she was related to the White House in the past. So there's many ways that this is going to play out. But one thing is very consistent: the vice president of the Democratic Party is going to be the one that takes a little bit of a hit in terms of the ticket. All right, guys. So that's what I'm getting for this. I know Des may want to know a little bit more about the political candidates. Who is this young male for the Democrats? Who is this? Let's find out. That's what we're going to find in today's video. That's why I wanted to give you a little background knowledge on the vision. I wanted to show you the video, but I'm not paying $50 to show you the video. So I figured I'd just tell it to you. Vocal. But if you want to watch the video content, it's in the description below. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's begin. It makes a lot of sense now with the baby scandal, with everything's already going on with the Epstein files and all those things. I'm not really that surprised. All right, so Spears and Angel, tell me. Tell me about who is most likely to be the 2028 presidential frontrunner. Let's put Pete Buttigieg up against Gavin Newsom, up against John Ossoff. Give me a card that best represents Pete Buttigieg. Out of the three likely candidates I just mentioned, who is the likeliest one to win? Okay. Who is this? Newsom. Okay. Pete Buttigieg, John Ossoff. Oh, and also Andy Beshear. Okay, tell me after we shuffle them all, because they're saying, because I forgot Andy Beshear, I'm putting a four-way match. So we have Gavin Newsom. Yeah, let's just do it. Spears and Angel, tell me, give me a card for Gavin Newsom and the head-to-head matchup between Gavin Newsom, Andy Beshear. We have here Pete Buttigieg and, of course, John Ossoff. Okay, head-to-head matchup: Andy Beshear, Gavin Newsom, John Ossoff, Pete Buttigieg. Okay. Andy Beshear, Gavin Newsom, John Ossoff. Okay, and Andy Beshear, Gavin Newsom, John Ossoff, Pete Buttigieg. Okay, so who's who? Why didn't ask for Dora and Mamandami? Okay, and then who is this then? Andy Beshear, and who's this? Okay, so they're saying this is Gavin Newsom. They're saying this is Pete Buttigieg. They're saying this is Andy Beshear with a hint of Doron Mamandami. And then we have here John Ossoff. What's the first card that represents Gavin Newsom? Gavin Newsom, behind the scenes, appears himself as somebody who's a fighter for justice. But Gavin Newsom, at his core, if he was to run for presidency or for the presidency, he will be somebody who's going to lead himself or position himself as a justice or a fighter, somebody who's there for the people. But that's not really what's happening. That's not really what's going on behind the scenes. He's not for the people. He's for the pocketbooks. He's for the people who is feeding him, people who are leading him to the presidency. This is who Gavin Newsom is at the core. This is who Gavin Newsom is behind the scenes. He's going to mislead the people. He's going to tell them one thing and do the opposite. This is Gavin Newsom. This is how he comes off as in his card. This is if he decides to seek the presidency. The next card is we have Pete Buttigieg. The card comes up as 9 of swords here. If 9 of swords here reversed, tell him it's upset. Not able to have sleepless nights, right? It's reversed. He's been able to sleep, but he's too young. I think the sword card is saying that his time is not now. This is the presidency card. It's reversed. This could indicate maybe possibly 3 years from now, he may have the ability to become president. He might be able to have the experience and the wisdom and the stamina to become president. But this is the star card for right now. He's not here. He's not meant to do the rebuilding process. He's here to be a leader in the future, but not a leader in the moment. So as of right now, Pete Buttigieg does not look likely. Now remember, when I say this, I'm saying this in the likeliest possibility of, let's say all these 4 candidates decide to enter the race. We have Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, Andy Beshear, John Ossoff. Right? This is a 4-way matchup. But that does not indicate how Pete Buttigieg will do or how his performance will do if he was in a head-to-head matchup with 5 other women and another unknown male. Right? Doesn't mean anything. This is just saying if these 4 were to go up against each other, this will be the matchup. Right? This is how it will go. Just keep that in mind. We do have here as well is we have Andy Bashir, and I'm also getting energy of Doron Mamadami. So it's very important for a progressive here. There's going to be a progressive candidate that's going to put himself front and center. We have here is we have the two of wands here. Someone who's looking to break the barrier. Someone looking to break and take the party in a new direction. And here you have is the Magician card reverse. The Magician card reverse is saying that we have a problem created. We have an issue with how we perceive ourselves. So there can be an image issue with Andy Bashir, specifically in regard to his new direction of the Democratic Party. He may say something, and maybe the DNC might go up against the candidate. They might try to do what they did back with the Bernie Sanders back in 2016. Does not say that Andy Bashir in any way is a progressive, but he might appear himself to be a little bit more to the left than other candidates on this platform, right? Doron Mamadami is very much key and center in his campaign for Andy Bashir. The reason for this is we have the Sun card. He's up and coming. He represents an ideological movement. This is the Sun card reverse, a movement forward. And here you have it, the Hanged Man reverse. It's an image issue. This is an image quality issue. It's the fact that how can you portray the message in a way that doesn't seem socialist, but seems and appears progressive. That is where we're at right now with Andy Bashir. The next card that becomes in is the Four of Wands. Here, the Four of Wands in reverse. It's the presidency card. We're talking about Jon Ossoff. This is Senator Jon Ossoff. And we're asking whether he decides to run for the presidency, how would it go? This is the Four of Wands reverse. This means that if he does see a loss in his Senate bid, he will lead to victory in the next election. So if just say Jon Ossoff loses his Senate race in Georgia in 2026, he will lead his victory to another progression. So, for example, the best way I could describe it is Jon Ossoff. You may have remembered Georgia's sixth congressional Congress seat went almost to the Democrats. Jon Ossoff was able to now a Republican district, and now it is by only a couple points. But he lost, but very narrowly, and it led to his victory in the U.S. Senate race because it propelled him to look higher up, to look more beyond the way he currently was, right? If he had become a congressman, he may have never been able to run for Senate because maybe he might have been taken in a new direction. They're just saying that if Jon Ossoff does decide to lose or somehow the voters reject him in the state of Georgia because of maybe polarization and something like that, it will propel him closer to a higher office. So out of the outcome between the four candidates, between Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, Andy Bashir, and Jon Ossoff, I would say Jon Ossoff is the most likeliest of them all. It's going to be a Southern Democrat, is what it felt like anyway, so I would not be surprised. All right. I hope you were able to answer your question, Desmond. I did do a political video dedicated to Pete Buttigieg if you want to go ahead and watch that video in the description below. But anyway, let's go ahead. Let's take a look at the election night vision. Let's take a look and ask about the baby scandal. I want to know a little bit more about that in relation to the Epstein files. Let's go ahead. So Spirit Angels, tell me about my vision about the election. My vision about the election. What's it called? We talked about the baby scandal. Can you tell us some more about this? Is this in any way related to the Epstein files that brings down a political party whose need to cost them the White House? Okay, so telling me here that there is something interesting that we didn't see before. What happened before is that there's a political candidate, a guy who's in office. So the party's in office, and when this election takes place, whenever this division takes place, whether in 2028 or 2032, it's telling me something very keen. It's telling me that the party in power, party in the White House, is the one who loses the power, loses control, loses the ability to not stay in power for long. So it could be the Democrats in power and they lose the White House again, or it could be the Republicans and they lose the White House. We don't know when this election taking place, but the elections seem to be coming closer, and it's going to take place between this time frame of 2028 to 2032. We have the Fool card. The Fool card, walking off the cliff. The question that we're asking is, It's the baby scandal in relation to the Epstein files. We have the fool card. We have here lack of caution, lack of awareness, lack of knowing where you're going. I'm glad that, Desmond, I'm glad that I was able to answer your question. Yeah, I agree, Brenda. The baby scandal is definitely bad. But the fool card is walking in with lack of caution, lack of awareness, not watching where you're taking your steps. Like falling off that cliff. This is my election night card, my election card. This is the 10 of Cups reversed. This is the election. This is democracy. This is people going out and vote. But because this card is reversed and it indicates here people not watching where they're going, it's saying here that something is an upset, something shocked, something that was so careless, something that people didn't really expect happened anyway. The reality of the nature of the way things are came to fruition. People's worst nightmare came true. And that is why this 10 of Cups here comes in as reverse. It comes in reverse because it's a shock to the system. It's a shock to the very core of one individual. We have here is followed by a victory of a party. A victory of a party. This is the 6 of Wands here, leading towards the victory, right? Of a young male, leading to a victory of a young male. Actually, it's going to be an election. If to further narrow it down for you guys, it's going to be an election between two males, right? One's going to be young, the other one's going to be a little bit older. We have the Wheel of Fortune. The Wheel of Fortune means going back to the way things were in the past. So, in essence, when this election takes place, it's going to take place based off of what happened in the past. So, what does that mean? That means that possibly the question we're asking is this in any way related to the Epstein file? They're saying that since right now we're in the future, right? We're talking about in the future, but as of when this video gets uploaded, this moment, the same moment, is going to be in the past. Right? Like you're watching this video with a six second delay. That's in the past. I'm already in the future. I'm already saying this in the future tense, but you're watching this in the past. And that's exactly what this Wheel of Fortune card is indicating, telling us that as of right now, when we're recording this video, we are in the future. But when years and days pass by, we will be in the past. And we're talking about Jeffrey Epstein now. We're asking, it doesn't any relation to Jeffrey Epstein and his file. And it's in essence, in hindsight, it's saying that the themes of this year, this 2 months, July and August, when Uranus enters Gemini, which it already did on July 7th of this year, indicate the theme, the overall theme for the next 8 years, right? Until 2033. And that's exactly what this indicates. It indicates going back to the past. The past is now. Right now we're in the future, but our future right now will be in the past, years from now. And here you have is the King of Swords, the incumbent, the person in power, the party in power, the person in position of power. This is represented as the King of Swords, right? Somebody in control of their destiny, someone with the incumbency. And over the 6 of Wands here was leading to victory, and the Wheel of Fortune was moving backward. You have here the a stolen path, a stolen election. This is number 7. This is the 7 of Swords. It means something from the past comes back and resurfaces its way back up. Something dark resurfaces and rekindles itself back up. I expect, with this being said here, is that the Epstein and everything in terms of pedophilia, sex trafficking, and all those things, there be consistent themes over the next 8 years in the US. Maybe we might be voting on these issues as well. But underneath the Fool card here, it's not being cautious, you're not taking your steps, and not watching where you're going. You have the Temperance card in reverse. The Temperance card in reverse is indicating to us is that there's a lack of balance, there's a lack of harmonious energy, there's a lack of awareness or a social contract, or a lack of social consciousness in this area of or realm of the question, which means that there's a lack of wanting to understand why things the way they are. There's a lack of people wanting to fight the system for allowing this to happen in the first place. There's a lack of that. Underneath the election card, though, which is represented by the 10 of Cups reversed, we have the Empress, the woman, the female. Right, the Empress. This is the feminine energy, right? We talked about the female. How we never had a set in the vision. It talked about how a young candidate doesn't take the hit, the male, but the female, who the vice president candidate to the Democrats, take the hit because she's similar in energy to Hillary Clinton. Right? Because she has some sort of governing experience. She was either a former vice president or Better yet, she may have somebody who was actually involved and actually closely aligned herself with the White House in the past. And this is the Emperor's card here. This is the Emperor's card is saying that there's an alignment, there's an attack on women. This is again another issue that we're going to deal with over the next 8 years. Is that there's going to be an attack on women, on people, on position of power, right? The next card is that we have the Six of Wands here. The Six of Wands is leading to victory, right? We're leading to victory, and here you have it, the government. The government, they're leading to victory in the government. There's an idea, there's a concept of how government should work and how it should operate. So there's going to be some issues revolving around this election where people are going to be talking about how to restructure the government. And so it's going to be an election where we talk about how people are going to start voting not only on certain things, on certain corruption issues, but how can we better as a society to elect people on how they can restructure the government to our liking. So it's going to be a little bit more democratic than your per se, which tells me that during this time period, we're out of fascism at this point. The next card that comes in is we have the Wheel of Fortune. And the Wheel of Fortune is a very interesting card because the Wheel of Fortune indicates going backward when it's upright, going back to the past. And here you have what's in the past. Here we have 3 times it came up. 3 times it caused a loss. This is the 5 of Cups. We have here 2016, 2020, 24. You should have mentioned the word Epstein. Each of those 3 elections have mentioned Epstein. We have 2 more. We have the 2028 election and 2032 election. We're not out of this yet. Epstein and everything going on right now, you're going to be hearing his name for the next 13 years, the next 8 years from now. I can't believe it's only 8 years. My God. But we're going to be hearing his name very relatively. It's something in the past that can be re-emerging. So yes, the answer is to the question is the baby scandal in relation to Jeffrey Epstein? Yes. 100% yes. And underneath this King of Swords here and the Knight of Cups, this is the Democrat. This is like the Joe Biden type energy. This is the end of the Democrat of Joe Biden. This is a new Democrat coming in, a new Democrat, a new idea, a new concept. And here you have it, the King of Swords. And the King of Swords, hopefully, this doesn't mean that there's a Democratic time in which this happened. This could be something, but I'm also indicating as well here that if this is during a time when a Democrat is in the White House again, then this will take place in 2032. If this is going to take place in a time in which a Republican's in the White House, then this is going to take place in 2028. But in some way, this is how it's going to play out. This is how it's going to operate. The top of the deck here is we have the Ace of Swords. The Ace of Swords, the story is not yet over. It hasn't slayed anybody. Nobody in high position of power has been punished for the crime that they committed against children. And here you have it, the 7 of Swords reversed. The 7 of Swords reversed is the pushback, right? It's the resistance. There's a lack of pushback. There's a lack of resistance. But there's a lot of judgment here. The judgment is, well, who's being judged? We have here not leaders. Leaders are not the one being judged. It's those who are unfortunate to have all the power, who are able to consume all the power. Those are the people that take the hit, but not those who are actually the ones who actually actively engage in this behavior. So let's see. Brenda actually asked a really good question. She asked, well, Chris, are the babies the one that's separated from the parents? So if you guys remember the family separation issue that happened during Donald Trump's first term, which I'm sure it's still happening now, but I'm sure it's not in the news. This could be what it's indicating. So let's go ahead. We'll take a look at that, see what's going on there. Then, yeah, so first administration. Then some of you guys, Robin asked, is it Chelsea Clinton? We'll take a look at her. Jamie Crockett, the vice president of AOC. I don't know if it's going to be Jamie Crockett or AOC, but then again, I did say it might be a little bit more progressive in nature, but that was more so for Andy Bashir campaign rather than anything. But it's going to be more of like Elizabeth Warren, more like Hillary type energy, maybe. Think of somebody who dresses like Hillary. Maybe it could be that. It could even be how they treat Hillary. It's very symbolic of how they're going to treat this vice presidential nominee. Yeah, Epstein is like a bad stench. I would love to know how the Democratic Party will have a majority in the Senate and the House in 2026 in the midterm. Will that break the Republican Party? As of right now, we're way too early to talk about the 2026 midterm. I did do a couple videos on that. As of right now, my money's on the Republican Party holding on to the House by a very narrow majority. And for the Senate, it looks like it's going to say Republican at this point in time. I will have to do another video update on that, but there's nothing I can do specifically to read on it because right now there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of, I don't know if you heard about it, but Texas is right now trying to redistrict in the middle of the U.S. Census, the House seats. So the fact is that the Democrats are also retaliating in California, Washington, Oregon, Hawaii, New York. And so the fact is that it's going to be kind of a little bit harder to kind of negate what party's going to win when both parties are actually trying to change the House map. So once we kind of get a little closer, I'm going to read on the U.S. midterms again. But as of when I read on it, probably say about a month ago, I said that the Republican Party were on track to win the midterms as of right now. But there was a caveat. There was a caveat. In the most recent video, I talked about how even though the Republicans were likely to win, there was energy or a sensation or an aura that indicated that Democrats won, but then there was a cancellation of the results. There was something that was canceled and it just disappeared. There was no election. Even though people went out and voted, there was like this feeling, there was this aura that the results were just canceled. There was something there. There was the energy there that indicated that. So hopefully, as we get a little closer to the midterm, I might be able to know a little bit more. I did at one point think about running for the U.S. midterms, specifically here in New York, but I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. I don't know if I have a chance to do it. So I'm waiting to see if maybe I should run for Congress. But as of right now, I'm not. All right. So you mentioned Brenda. You mentioned Amy. Amy. Oh my God. I just remember. I'm hearing Amy McGrath, who was from Kentucky, but there's also another woman as well. Is oh my God, she's from Minnesota. Forgot her name. Forgot her name. But anyway, let's take a look at the woman. You're welcome, Desmond. We'll do another video on that soon. I promise you that. But it's a little too it's too hard to know what's going to happen because it's going to change again tomorrow with the way that they're fighting in the congressional races at the moment. So I'm going to wait a little bit. All right. So Spirit Angels, tell me about the woman who feels like Hillary Clinton's energy. Tell me about that. Oh, Jesus. We have the Queen of Pentacles. Now, I want to make sure I put a little disclaimer out here. Just because the energy appears very negative for this woman does not mean that she's a negative person. It could also be propaganda. We have consistently saw over the course of my time here on YouTube since 2020, so about almost 5 years now, that we have seen that propaganda does show up in tarot cards. Whatever the energy, whatever the dominant energy is during the time in which that reading is done, if there's propaganda in the question in some form, so I'm talking about, like, for example, Hillary, right? There's a lot of propaganda in terms of that, right? They propagandize around Hillary Clinton's identity, her purpose, her past, and stuff like that. It's going to show up in the cards. Whatever energy is more dominant, it's going to show up in the cards. So take what I tell you with a grain of salt. We have here the first card that comes in is the Page of Swords. And the Page of Swords is a very interesting card. The Page of Swords comes in as bravery, it comes in as strong, it comes in as breaking the barrier, someone coming in swinging. Not someone who comes in just walking with like kind of scaredness, like a kitty cat. This is somebody who comes in ready and willing to fight. This is a fighter. This is a woman of a fighter. This is talking about the Democratic Party vice presidential nominee. This is a woman who's a fighter. Right? She's a fighter. Here, the next card that comes in is the King of Swords. It's just somebody who had political experience, a lot of political experience. I'm getting almost every role, every position possible she had. She held every position. She has experience in political. In some ways, she had everything under her belt. She was a senator, she was a congressman, she was a vice president, she was a governor. All those things. She has those qualifications. She has a high amount of qualification. If anything, she's actually overqualified for the presidency at this point. But this is who she is. This is who this vice president is. The card you have the Two of Wands here. looking abroad, looking ahead, looking for opportunity. Can I truly win this? Can I truly do anything? Can I truly win? Can I truly get ahead? Are the odds against me? Look at this. You see here on the stone, cast in the stone, you have the white flower, which is like oh my god, it's like bells. It's a type of flower that hangs down. It's yellow and it's like a bell. And if you smell it, it's too toxic and can actually kill you, right? But there's a flower here. There's a fruit here as well, and that's the raspberry. It's the raspberries that you just be careful how much you breathe in. Be careful how much you think you can go ahead. There's a equilibrium here. You need to honor the equilibrium. And here you have is the two of swords here. The two of swords is indecision, indecisiveness, unable to make a clear decision. This is going to be on an eclipse. Which telling me we won't really know who this woman is until the clock strikes 12, but right before 11 o'clock, and metaphorically speaking, before 11 o'clock at night, we're going to know who this woman is, but it's going to be unknown to us who this person is until this person comes into the forefront, and it's all going to make sense. Everything's going to click into place. And then here you have is stolen. Okay, hold on. So you have a two of swords here. Okay, you have here something clicked in at 11 o'clock, and then something gets stolen. And then here you have it, the 7 of swords here. There's two swords remaining. What does that mean? Spirit, what does it mean that when something's stolen? Why is the number 7 here? 7 of swords coming up. Oh, something taken away from her. This is the Ace of Pentacles. This could be energy of somebody who. Okay, so there's many ways this could play out. If this is true, based on what I'm getting the energy here, it seems very symbolic. This energy could be Harris. If you start to add in all the qualifications and stuff like that, it starts to kind of seem very similar to Harris, if you will. Because we have the 7 of swords, and just play with me here. God forbid this was saying this was Harris, right? For entertainment and educational purposes only. So to say this was Harris, right? She fits everything into the 9. But she remembers something being stolen from her. So if there was a motive, and just say this was Harris, a candidate will be chosen, the vice presidential candidate will be chosen on a candidate who could have been, but never been. And that makes a lot of sense now, because when you start to look at my psychic channeling book, which I'm going to read to you right now, let's see. We have here on December 31st, 2024, which is my psychic channeling for the new year, of course. And in that channeling, I talked about Harris. And it says here, Harris will seek a new path toward the presidency, for that she shall become. Right? That is dated on December 31st, 2024. Now we have one in January the 9th, 2025. And you can see that here. And here what it says here. Harris will go on to win the 2020 election if she chooses to seek it, but that the presidency is already hers. That's if she wants to become the presidential frontrunner, right? Okay, here, look what it says here too. Also same dated, right? We have it here, January the 9th, 2025. Look what it says here. I can't read it to you because I can't see, but you can just kind of screenshot that if you want. But I'm going to read it to you. It says here, Harris may take her rightful place, but not before she finds and meets a young male. Tim Walz is not likely to become her vice president, as I have other plans for him. Makes sense, right? Well, we talked about a young male here. You can't make this stuff up. Literally, I talked about a young male here. We have here as well is, look at this scripture here. It says here, I'm going to read it to you in a minute, but if you want to like screenshot this, you could. It says here, many women will lose their rights so that they themselves can be prepared and ready to usher in the first woman president. Okay? Now let's see. Is this also one with Harris in it? Let's see. Is Harris in this one? Nope. Harris is not in this one. She's not in this one either, I don't think. Yeah. Okay, so that's all I have for Harris. But if there's any consolation, right, this could be indicating Harris as well. That there's a motive here, maybe to reappoint somebody who had the election stolen from them by making them the vice presidential nominee. Right? Listen, Brenda, I'm not good with names either, so we're all here. Yeah, Amy Klobuchar, that's her name. Okay, so let's take a look. Spirits and angels tell me, is that woman Harris, former Vice President Harris, is that woman in my election night vision Harris? I'm seeing in my head this card, this deck here. Let me take it. In this deck, there's a card of Harris in this deck. Let's take a look. I'm seeing her in my face very clearly. So let me see if she pumped up. But her energy's there. So let's see if we can get her. Okay. Spirit angel tell me, is that young female, that female energy as vice president for this new young male Democrat who's running for the presidential ticket, is this Harris? Okay, we have some cards come up here, but I don't think any of it's Harris. Is this Harris, former Vice President Harris, running again as a vice president for a Democrat, a young male Democrat? Is this who this person is talking about? Okay, so we have a woman. This card here. We have the vice president card here. Vice president is the vice president house. What's behind the vice president house? We have here a woman, an older woman. This is the older woman by this point. This is the Nine of Pentacles with a young champion or whatever, gorilla. I don't even know what that is, but that's what that indicates. What is the top of the deck? We have here Oprah Winfrey, Princess of Cups. What's on the bottom of the deck? Let's take a look. Trump Tower, right? When the tower falls. So there's a tower moment here. What is this tower moment? We're asking if this has to do with Harris. We have here Two of Cups, Two of Swords. Remember, we're not really meant to know who this woman is until the 11th hour. So even if we do know, we're not going to get a definitive until it actually happens. Hello, Crimson. You must be new. And here is the Trump Tower again. Now, let's take a look. We don't have any indication that there's Harris in this cards, at least not at the moment. But it does appear something is here. So we're asking if this is Harris, right? Is she running alongside a young male for the presidency? We have the King of Cups. And the King of Cups is a very interesting card because it talks about a chaotic leader whose card is chaos when there should be a time of peace. That's what this card indicates, the King of Cups. And it's also when the party's out of power as well. And here you have is the Seven of Cups, which means pick your poison, pick your ideology, pick your new direction, which means Harris has free will here. We notice how the book literally said in my second channeling that if she chooses to seek it, it's hers. It's already hers if she decides to seek the 2028 presidential election. So I did it right here. And it was channeled on January 9, 2025. Harris will go on to win the 2020 election if she so chooses to seek it, for that the presidency is already hers. If that's not clear, I don't know what is. But this is what this is indicating here. It's indicating a path. She had choices. Remember what I said, the woman, it cannot be known until the 11th hour. Anyway, but we can kind of see if we can tap into the energy or the frequency. But it doesn't guarantee it's going to be them until it's them, right? We have the emperor, which is the president, right? This is the person in control and position of power. This is reversed. It's indicating that they're out of power. This is women, the Six of Cups, right? Out of power. What is out of power right now? What is out of power during the time when this election taking place? Happiness, joyness, peace, prosperity. And here you also have the sun, happiness. This is the best of America, right? That's what this card comes in as. And here you have it, the next card that comes in is the Queen of Cups. This is the female energy, the person in power, the person in control, watching very closely, watching so evidently, but watching very closely. This is a very authoritarian style energy. This is telling me here that there could possibly be, if this election were to take place, there may be a woman already in power. There may be a Republican or a feminine woman in power, but it's not necessarily a woman. Very weird, right? This could be a male with feminine energy. He might have long hair. It could be like Donald Trump. Like, you know how I said how Donald Trump sometimes occasionally comes up as a woman despite not being actually a woman and not even having feminine energy. He represents the stark opposite of a woman. He represents the stark opposite of femininity to the point where he comes up as a feminine, even though he's not. This is the Queen of Cups. Then you have the Magician card. The Magician card is reversed. She can only have so much free will. If she's supposed to do something, she will have to go and do it, regardless if she wants to do it or not. So there is going to be a limitation to her ability. So we're talking about Harris. We're asking whether or not this young female, this Hillary Clinton-like energy, is this Harris. It's indicating here that there is some indication that it could be her, but there's not an outright answer to the question either. Because we have here underneath the King of Cups here, was you have a chaotic leader, a person in position of power, who is causing a lot of chaos. And this is actually interesting because it comes up as Ivanka Trump. You remember how I said there was a woman who was already in power, the feminine woman is in power, and they represent the darkness of the femininity to the point where the cards represent them as feminine anyway, even though they're really not. It comes up as Ivanka Trump, and here you have it, Donald Trump in the picture, smiling and laughing. She had the power, she had the wisdom, and here you have is her little castle in the background. That is what this represents here, the Princess of Pentacles. I mean, this is the chaotic leader. This is the chaotic, dark, feminine energy. And here you have it underneath here. We have here choosing your path, choosing where you want to go. And here you have it, the Three of Cups. I think the decision will be made publicly online. If Harris were to choose what she's going to do, it's going to be made publicly through 3 speeches, but the second speech is what's going to be the most important. It's going to indicate to us who Harris is and where she really plans to go. And that is what this Three of Cups is going to represent when she's ready. And ironically enough, Stephen Colbert, who is the late night show host, he was terminated, or his show was canceled, started in 2026, early of 2026. Again, this is the Three of Cups. The media. Confusion, right? Letting people know where you're going. Having to make a decision. What is coming for the Emperor? What's coming for the high position of power if Harris does decide to do this? This would be the Hierophant. This is the government. This is the experience. This is the ability for her to move forward. This is the Hierophant. If she were to do this, she's not going to be doing it just for herself. She's going to be doing it on behalf of those who have been led astray, for those of them who are minority descent, for those of them who are hurting, for those who need somebody to help fight for them, to someone who needs a voice. And that's what, if she was to come in, she would come in as the individual, kind of similar to Martin Luther King Jr. If Harris was to seek the vice presidency again. Not the presidency, but the vice presidency. And then here underneath the Queen of Cups here, which is the authoritarian woman, the dark energy, the dark feminine looking at people, watching things like high surveillance. My high surveillance state. It could also be, again, the feminine, dark feminine energy could represent the United States as a female, but it's dark feminine female. How it could be represented the opposite of that. And then here you have is the Three Pentacles reverse. What's it indicating? Great wealth, things coming in as they should. And you have nature that has been restored, but there's a picture. Not doing it for the photography. You're not doing it because people are watching. You're doing it because of the goodness of your heart. And underneath the Magician card, if this were to become true spirit, give me a card with this. Is this Vice President Kamala Harris? Is this going to be Harris? We don't know. We don't know. I'm also using the wrong deck here. I just realized I'm using the wrong deck. Is this Harris? For the Magician card reverse. Bottom of deck. Oh, here she is. I imagine her in a red dress for some reason, but here she is, the Princess of Wands. Here it's reversed. Is it Harris? It's reversed. What's behind Harris? Oops. We have here, nonetheless, she persisted. This is Thomas Jefferson, the line, the strength. This is Elizabeth Warren. Remember how we talked about how Elizabeth Warren and Hillary Clinton were very symbolic, and they had that kind of like that energy, Hillary Clinton-like energy. If Harris were to seek it, she'll be kind of like Elizabeth Warren, more progressive in nature, but she could be symbolic of Clinton's energy, which is symbolic of the Thomas Jefferson Memorial. And here it says here, nevertheless, she persisted. We'll talk about strength moving forward. This is Harris. What's the top of the deck here? We have here the Five of Cups, Civil War. It's going to be a battle. It's going to be a battle for the ages. Remember, it's going to take down this scandal that's talking about the baby scandal. It's going to take down two parties. At this point, it's the end of the Democrats and the Republicans at this point. But it's whoever led in the summer of that election year, it's going to be the party that loses the White House. And here are the two cards that we're acting. It's this symbolic of Harris. We have here war hero. This is talking about how a prisoner of war, right? It's reversed. It's indicating to us here that there are going to be allies, political allies during this time who have been jailed. And she's going to be advocating for releasing those political allies or releasing those people who were in jail. The political prisoners, if you will. And then here you have is the Four of Swords. The Four of Swords means health. There's a health crisis here. Possibly there is something that is aligning with the people. People feel like they're feeling Project 2025, which means that this is taken into full effect. Now, going to the Magician card here, which means that she only has a limited choice in what she can and cannot do. Like, remember I talked about how if this was Harris and she was to seek this, she has a very limited option, whether she wants it or not. A very limited option. However, there are going to be obstacles against her. What's the first obstacle? Is the authoritarianism. This is the capitalistic society. This is capitalism at its core. It's the death of capitalism. And they're going to do whatever they can to protect it. The next card that comes in is hope. It's going to be occupying Wall Street, the woman, the female, fighting. Remember, Anonymous is here as well. Right? You look at that guy as well in the glasses. There's very symbolic energy here. We are the 99% occupy Wall Street. It's reversed. We're going to get to this point right now, but we're not there yet. But we will be getting there. And when this happens, this is what happens next. The Seven of Wands here. Women get locked up. Remember what I said before in my reading. I said in order to usher in the first woman vice president, or the first woman president, it says here, many women will lose their rights so that they themselves can be prepared and ready to usher in the first woman president. Did not make that up. It's literally written down with ink. And so motive B. And so that is the revisitation of the book. Right? We have the election. It's not going to go as haywire as it may appear. You just have to be able to have the strength against opposition, the strength against those who are trying to oppress you. And the top of the deck here is we have the Aries card. Remember Neptune entered Aries again, right? It entered in I think April. It went Neptune entered Aries. Was the last time we had that was during the Civil War. The day before the Civil War, Neptune entered Aries for the first time. And we have once again gotten to that point. So that's where we're at. All right, guys, thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. And it's a little bit weird, a little bit different than what we're typically used to. But nonetheless, I did want to be able to make sure I did do a video for you guys. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. I'll see you guys all next time. Until then, peace out. I love you. And I will be doing a couple upload videos because I have not done a lot of uploads recently. So expect some uploaded videos, pre-recorded videos as well. All right, guys, thank you. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out. Love you.